While I was unconscious in the hospital, my wife took the opportunity to clean out my bank account. "I have earned this after all that I have done for you," the message conveyed. I responded with a simple thumbs up. Upon my discharge the next day, I chose not to return home. I'm Logan Doyle, 45 years old, and I've spent 22 years navigating the roads in a semi. It wasn't a life of luxury, yet it covered the expenses and allowed Melisado maintain a lifestyle she never truly valued. For weeks, I had been experiencing a persistent tightness in my chest. "It's merely stress," I reassured myself. It was merely the extended hours and subpar roadside coffee, until it became impossible to overlook any longer. Somewhere beyond Omaha, the discomfort intensified to a point where I had no choice but to stop. I took the initiative to call 911 myself. I was airlifted to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It became clear that what I was experiencing wasn't a panic attack after all. My heart was beginning to falter. The image of the doctor's face lingers in my mind just before darkness enveloped me. "We're losing him," she remarked. That's certainly not the most reassuring thing to hear just before losing consciousness. 2 days later, I found myself waking up with tubes in my arms and a stent in my heart. The nurse informed me that I had experienced 2 instances of flat lining. It was mentioned that I was fortunate. Upon checking my phone, I certainly didn't feel fortunate. Only a single message arrived from Dana. We had celebrated 15 years of marriage. Without children, my life revolves around a mortgage in Sioux Falls and the tranquility of solitary dinners during my time at home between trips. The message included a screenshot of our shared account. Equilibrium. Nothing at all. She wrote beneath it, "I have earned this after all that I have done for you. 61,438.72. My reserve for unexpected situations. My vehicle upkeep account. My retirement safety net. Everything has vanished." I ought to have experienced some emotion. Fury, perhaps. Rather, I simply experienced a sense of fatigue. Exhausted in a manner that rest alone couldn't remedy. I responded with a thumbs-up emoji. Nothing more to add. Upon the doctor's arrival, he advised me that rest was essential for my recovery. Steer clear of stress. Refrain from driving for a minimum of 6 weeks. He inquired whether anyone would be coming to collect me tomorrow. Indeed, I was not truthful. That evening, I reached out to my brother Brian. He resided on the opposite side of town. I hadn't communicated with him in several months, not due to any conflict. Our experiences have simply diverged. I requested a small favor. He responded without a moment's pause, ready to name it. "I'm looking for a spot to stay for a few days, and I'd appreciate it if you could keep this between us and not mention it to Dana." A moment of silence ensued. "Is she unaware of your existence?" "Oh, she is aware," I remarked. "She remains unaware that I won't be returning home." My encounter with Melissa took place at a gas station just outside of Cheyenne. She found herself in a predicament with a flat tire, and I happened to be the one who offered assistance. In that moment, she regarded me with admiration, as if I were a hero simply for my knowledge of using a jack. It's amusing how that unfolds. What initially captivates individuals eventually transforms into something they take for granted. We tied the knot 6 months later. Swift yet measured. I was at the age of 30. At the age of 27, she found herself at a pivotal moment in her life. Mature enough to understand the implications, at an age where hope and belief still flourish. She always found it difficult that I was away 3 weeks out of 4. However, the financial rewards were substantial, and she appreciated the benefits it provided. I would make a call each night from whichever state I happened to be in. At times, the discussions extended for a full hour. Over the years, they gradually became shorter, brief updates in just 5 minutes. Just reaching out to see how things are going. In recent years, communication has primarily revolved around text-based interactions. Arrived in Nashville. Everything is going well here. Upon reflection, it becomes clear that there were indications. She ceased inquiring about my return time, embarked on journeys with friends I had yet to meet. However, I had faith in her. Isn't that the essence of marriage confidence? My brother Brian graciously assisted me as I entered his guest room. He holds the position of a construction foreman, operates in the local environment, experienced 2 divorces, understands the various ways in which individuals can let you down. You ought to have something to eat, he suggested. I had no appetite. I found myself reflecting on the house I purchased, reflecting on the refinancing I completed 3 months ago when interest rates fell. Melissa mentioned that she was too occupied to attend the signing, so I took it upon myself to manage it. Let's put it solely in my name, because my credit score is more favorable. She didn't even inquire about the paperwork. I had also established the medical power of attorney the previous year. When my friend Tim experienced a stroke and his girlfriend was unable to make decisions on his behalf, I felt a sense of concern. Lily, my niece and Brian's daughter, provided her assistance with it. Student of law, intelligent young individual. She ensured that everything was meticulously arranged. Is Melissa aware of your presence here? As Brian handed me a sandwich, he inquired with curiosity. I firmly declined. We plan to maintain this approach for a while longer. Did she really take it all? I acknowledged with a nod. What actions will you take? I savored a bite of the sandwich. It lacked any discernible flavor. I'm going to take a moment to recharge. Instructions from the physician. However, that night, I found myself unable to sleep. I found myself gazing at the ceiling, reflecting on the subtle instances when Melissa appeared to be somewhat removed, glancing at her phone discreetly beneath the table, updating your passwords, transferring funds between accounts to secure more favorable interest rates. I had been oblivious. However, that is no longer the case. On my 3rd day at Brian's place, I received a message from our neighbor, Harold. I haven't noticed your presence lately. Is everything all right? Melissa has invited someone over. I believe this information might be valuable to you. I pondered that for quite a while. No response received. Take a moment to absorb that. Later that afternoon, I took a drive with Brian to the bank. This wasn't the usual branch where Melissa and I were familiar, but rather the central office located downtown. Requested a conversation with a fraud expert. I presented them with a text message accompanied by the screenshot. I shared that I had been hospitalized and was unconscious during that time. The withdrawals occurred without my awareness or approval. The woman behind the desk maintained a composed and professional demeanor. Yet it was evident in her gaze. What a shame. Perhaps a touch of frustration on my part. Mr. Doyle, we have the opportunity to initiate a thorough investigation into potential fraud. However, considering that this is a shared account and your wife has equal access, it could be challenging to... I see what you mean, I interjected. However, I would like to give it a shot regardless. She acknowledged with a nod and began to type on her computer. We will require documentation from the hospital verifying your stay, especially records indicating the periods during which you were unconscious or incapacitated. No issue at all. It's important to understand that if this escalates into a criminal issue, law enforcement will be engaged. I gazed at her. I understand. During our return to Brian's place, we made a brief stop to refuel the car. I remained in the vehicle as he filled up the tank. As I gazed through the windshield, I observed a father accompanied by his 2 children delightfully purchasing ice cream from a nearby convenience store. Everyday life continues to unfold around me. Is there anything you desire? Brian inquired. I gently shook my head in disbelief. Upon returning to his residence, I proceeded to make 3 phone calls. Initially, I reached out to my dispatcher to inform him that I required an extended medical leave. Following closely behind is the credit union, where I maintained a small business account for my independent contracting work. A referral to a lawyer who is a friend of Brian's. I expressed my need to understand my position concerning the house, the accounts, and all other matters. The attorney, Andrew, consented to a meeting the following day. I ended the call and took out my laptop, accessed accounts that Melissa was unaware of, reviewed the status of investments she had never inquired about. Not due to any intention to conceal information from her, but rather because she had never expressed curiosity about the less exciting aspects of our finances. As I was engaged in that task, a new message arrived this time from Donnie. "What is your current location? The truck is currently not located at the depot. Were you informed that I stopped by? I chose not to respond. Cameron, this situation is quite absurd. It's not possible to simply vanish. This is a topic that deserves our attention." I set the phone aside. Brian cast a glance from the kitchen. Is she making an effort to connect? Indeed. Are you going to respond? I shut my laptop. Not at this moment. That evening, I strolled through Brian's neighborhood. The night was clear with stars shining brightly despite the glow of the city lights. For the first time since my hospital stay, I felt a sense of relief in my chest. Not in a physical sense, at least. During that walk, I came to a profound realization. I had moved past my anger. I experienced no pain at all. I had reached my limit. And with that emerged a profound understanding. Melissa had done more than simply take my money. She had granted me my liberation. A week following my discharge, I finally returned home. It was midday, a time I anticipated Melissa would be occupied at her office job. I entered with my key as if I had just returned from another space. The aroma in the house had changed. Cologne. That does not belong to me. Wine bottles awaiting their next chapter in the recycling bin. 2 wine glasses are placed in the dishwasher. I gathered a few outfits, my essential documents, and the small lockbox from the closet that held my birth certificate and passport. As I stepped outside, I realized that the framed photo from our wedding day was absent from the hallway table. Upon returning to Brian's, I had a meeting with Andrew, the attorney. We gathered around the kitchen table, papers laid out before us, creating a scene ripe for exploration and understanding. "The situation with the house is quite intriguing," he remarked as he examined the refinancing documents. "Considering that you refinanced exclusively in your name with the medical clause, along with your recent cardiac event, you have a compelling argument for sole possession. What is the situation regarding the money she took?" Andrew wore a look of discontent. "That presents a greater challenge. Joint accounts generally signify shared ownership. However, he lightly tapped a finger on the bank statements, noting that her actions in clearing it out during your period of medical incapacitation might be seen as financial exploitation of someone in a vulnerable position, particularly given that you possess records indicating that these were mainly your income." I acknowledged with a nod. "What if I decide to pursue a divorce? South Dakota operates under a system of fair distribution. Considering the situation, I believe we can present a strong argument for a solution that benefits you." He collected the documents. "I will prepare some preliminary documents. For now, please refrain from reaching out to her. Refrain from replying if she makes contact. All experiences flow through me at this moment." The following day, Melissa arrived at Brian's residence. I found myself in solitude. Brian is diligently engaged in his tasks at the workplace. I heard her car arrive, yet I chose not to glance out the window. The doorbell chimed thrice before she began to knock. "I am aware of your presence, Cameron. The vehicle you drive is stationed further down the road." Her voice came through the door, soft and indistinct. Concealing oneself is not a viable option. This is a topic that deserves our attention. I remained completely motionless in the living room, reminiscent of a child engaged in a game of hide and seek. Ultimately, the knocking ceased. I was under the impression she had departed until my phone vibrated. I apologized for the financial situation. I felt a surge of anger. There has been a noticeable distance between us for several months now. I had the impression that you were being unfaithful. Upon discovering the details about house refinancing, I felt a wave of panic wash over me. We can find a solution to this. I would love to engage in conversation with you. This marked the first occasion on which she had ever suggested that I was unfaithful. It seems likely that projection is at play here. I placed the phone face down, choosing not to respond. The following day, Andrew reached out with some intriguing news. Melissa reached out to me, he mentioned. She has engaged the services of Cynthia Wells as her legal counsel. Cynthia Wells, a highly formidable divorce attorney in the state, recognized for pursuing all opportunities, property savings for retirement potential income. I inquired about the implications for us. It indicates that she is serious about her intentions. Wells is asserting that your departure following the hospitalization amounts to abandonment. She is portraying you as unreliable, claiming that you vanished without any reason and are avoiding contact. I exhaled deeply. What are the next steps? Now we take the initiative on this. I have submitted a request for an urgent hearing concerning the funds that were withdrawn. Judge Harmon is currently overseeing the proceedings. He holds a rather unfavorable perspective on exploiting medical circumstances. Following the call, I found myself gazing at the wall for an extended period. Subsequently, I placed another call. Dear Lily, I sought her assistance with a particular matter. That evening, I found myself driving past our house. Donna's car was parked in the driveway, next to an unfamiliar black Audi. I made a loop around the block before returning to Brian's place. As I stood in the driveway, a message arrived from an unfamiliar number. This is Cynthia Wells. I am the representative for Melissa Doyle. Any additional monitoring of my client will be recorded as harassment. It is essential that all communication follows the appropriate legal procedures. I felt their gaze upon me. I observed them closely, and now, the battle had truly begun. 2 weeks following that initial encounter with Andrew, we found ourselves in court. Urgent session concerning the retracted finances. Melissa stood alongside Cynthia Wells, both elegantly dressed in sharp suits. I donned the sole tie in my possession, the one I stored in my truck for those unforeseen funerals while traveling. Judge Harmon was an elderly gentleman, his white hair contrasting with the reading glasses that rested delicately on the tip of his nose. He examined the documents with a neutral demeanor, occasionally glancing at Melissa and then at me. Ms. Wells, he finally remarked, the client removed all funds from the joint accounts during Mr. Doyle's hospitalization for a serious cardiac issue. Is that accurate? Wells rose to his feet. Your Honor, my client was fully entitled to access those shared funds. Additionally, Mr. Doyle recently took the step of refinancing their marital home solely in his name, without Mrs. Doyle's awareness, an action we argue marks the initial instance of financial deceit. The judge took off his glasses. I'm not inquiring about the house at this moment, Counselor. I would like to inquire about when the withdrawal will take place. Did your client know that Mr. Doyle was hospitalized when she received the funds? Melissa leaned in closer and shared a quiet remark with Wells. Wells prepared to speak, clearing her throat with intention. Indeed, Your Honor. My client was experiencing significant emotional turmoil, convinced that her marriage was coming to a close. She took measures to safeguard her financial well-being. The judge adjusted his glasses once more. Although it may seem improbable for Mr. Doyle to contemplate the end of his marriage while unconscious from a heart attack, he nonetheless found himself shuffling some papers. I am placing a hold on the funds while we await further developments. Access to these funds will be restricted for both parties until ownership is clarified in the divorce settlement. While it may not have been a total victory, It effectively prevented Melissa from incurring any further expenses. As we exited the courtroom, Melissa made an attempt to reach out to me. Wells restrained her with a gentle grip on her arm, but not before Melissa implored Cameron, "Please, there is a wealth of knowledge that remains beyond your grasp." I strolled by, my gaze averted from her presence. Outside, Andrew felt a sense of contentment. This marks the initial step forward. We are now embarking on a journey of exploration. Revelation, the moment when everything is revealed and brought to light. A week later, Andrew summoned me to his office. Upon my arrival, a folder was ready and waiting for me. He leaned in, a glimmer of excitement in his eyes as he slid it across the desk, saying, "We've got something." Within the envelope lay a bank statement from an unfamiliar account. The name Melissa appeared on it. The total amount stands at $127,340.56. I inquired about the origin of this. Your niece discovered it. Lily's internship at the credit union downtown provided her with valuable perspectives. This account has been active for a year and a half. Consistent contributions typically just below the $10,000 mark. Just below the reporting threshold. A traditional indicator of concealing funds. Andrew mentioned that there is additional information to consider. The deposits correspond perfectly with your extended timeline. In your absence, wealth accumulates. I took a moment to reflect. Has she really been planning this for a year and a half? Andrew expressed his disapproval with a shake of his head. I believe she had no intention of departing from you, Cameron. It seems she may have been getting ready for the possibility of your departure. What would compel me to part ways with her? I was pushing myself to the limits to ensure our well-being. At that moment, Andrew gracefully passed another sheet of paper across the table. A credit card statement reflecting a hotel charge from a location in Minneapolis. 3 months ago. I had spent that week in Seattle. The reservation was under the name Greg Jensen. Harold, the individual residing next door. The individual who reached out to me regarding the person at our residence. Andrew's expression was somber. It appears that Greg has had a connection with Melissa for quite a while. He was crafting a misleading path to instill doubt while they were in each other's company. The act of betrayal extended beyond just Dana. The effort was well organized, thoughtfully arranged. Greg assumes the role of a worried neighbor while engaging in an affair with my wife. Melissa depleting our finances while I was struggling for survival. I rose to my feet. What should be our next step? Andrew's smile finally broke through, illuminating his face for the first time that day. The decision is yours to make. However, if I were in your position, I would ensure that they both come to regret ever believing they could escape the consequences of their actions. During the following month, I resided at Brian's place, focusing on my physical recovery as Andrew diligently worked on our case. A clear strategy has emerged for us now. Record every detail meticulously. Collect information regarding the connection between Melissa and Harold. Demonstrate the financial misrepresentation. Lily, my niece, proved to be an incredible asset. Her role at the credit union provided us with a perspective on financial patterns that we might have overlooked otherwise. All actions are within the bounds of the law, simply linking together elements that were already evident. One evening, she mentioned that there is another individual who has access to the account. While not a co-owner, I am recognized as an authorized user. Harold, I surmised she acknowledged with a nod. Additionally, there's another point to consider. They have begun transferring funds, smaller sums, to various accounts. They are aware that we have caught on to their actions. I gazed thoughtfully out the window. They are in the process of liquidating, preparing to make their exit. That evening, I reached out to Andrew. It is essential for us to accelerate our pace. I concur, but we must exercise caution. If we reveal our intentions too early, they'll vanish with it all, I concluded. What steps should we take next? Andrew paused in silence for a brief moment. We require a strategic advantage, an element that compels them to reconsider their actions. The following day, I made my way to our home fully aware that Melissa would be at work. I chose not to enter. I chose to stroll along the property line, capturing images with my phone. The recently constructed shed that Greg assisted in building last summer. The elaborate landscaping that had unexpectedly emerged during my 3-week journey to California. Enhancements funded by my own resources, probably executed by Harold, elevating the worth of the residence that was now entirely under my ownership. I shared the photos with Andrew, along with a brief message. Recorded. 2 days later, Andrew received an unexpected call from Dana's lawyer with an intriguing offer. Melissa proposed to return half of the withdrawn funds in exchange for an equal share of equity in the house. They're putting us to the test, Andrew remarked during his call checking to see if we'll accept a low offer. What should we communicate to them? No updates at this time. Allow them to feel the pressure. In the meantime, I took another step forward. I reached out to the HR department of my trucking company to discuss my circumstances and inquire about the disability insurance contributions I have been making for the past 20 years. The HR representative clarified that you are eligible for 60% of your salary for a duration of up to 12 months, considering your cardiac event and the doctor's restrictions, which means you easily meet the qualifications. On that day, I completed the necessary paperwork. A potential source of income that Melissa was unaware of would not yet be part of any settlement discussions. The following week, I asked Brian to take me by our house once more. This time, I observed an intriguing detail that caught my attention. A sign indicating that Harold's property is available for purchase stands prominently on his lawn. He's making a swift exit, Brian remarked. I acknowledged with a nod. Reach out to Lily. After an hour, Lily validated our assumptions. 2 days prior, Greg had emptied his accounts, withdrawing nearly $90,000 in cashier's checks. I reached out to Andrew right away. It is imperative that we take action immediately. Greg is putting his house on the market. Melissa appears to be considering accompanying him. Andrew acted without a moment's pause. Tomorrow, I will promptly file for an emergency injunction to freeze all assets and ensure that no property sales occur without court approval. The following morning, I received a text from Dana. It's time for a conversation. Only you and I. No attorneys. I shared it with Brian. He remarked on their desperation. I acknowledged with a nod. Excellent. I sent the text to Andrew and he responded. Kindly refrain from responding. The injunction hearing is scheduled for 2 p.m. At 1:30, I entered the courthouse and noticed Melissa and Greg in the parking lot engaged in a heated argument. They overlooked my presence. I discreetly pulled out my phone and captured their actions from afar. Half a minute of compelling proof illustrating their connection. It was a detail they had meticulously concealed from the legal process. Within the confines, Andrew awaited with anticipation. I presented the video to him. Excellent timing, he remarked. Judge Harmon seems to be in quite a contemplative state today. I adjusted my tie with precision. Let's not delay any further. Judge Harmon's chambers were more compact than the courtroom. Only the judge, the 2 attorneys Dana and myself were present. Greg found himself excluded from entry. He was not involved in the divorce proceedings. The footage of their interaction was displayed on the judge's screen. Silence prevails. However, their body language conveyed a wealth of meaning. Ms. Wells, Judge Harmon inquired. At the conclusion, could you clarify why your client has been asserting under oath that she has no connection with this neighbor? Despite video evidence indicating the contrary, Wells appeared visibly unsettled. Your Honor, the dynamics of their relationship do not pertain to the financial issues we are discussing. In a moment of financial fraud allegations, the judge directed his attention towards Danny. Mrs. Doyle, do you have intentions of departing the state alongside Mr. Jensen? Dana's complexion drained of color. I do not. The judge elaborated further. The court possesses information indicating that you and Mr. Jensen have been transferring significant amounts of money, that Mr. Jensen is in the process of selling his property, and that you made withdrawals from joint accounts during your husband's incapacitation. This indicates a trend of dishonesty and a desire to escape. He regarded both attorneys thoughtfully. I am implementing an immediate freeze on all assets associated with Melissa Doyle and Greg Jensen. Neither party is permitted to leave the county without obtaining permission from the court. Furthermore, he directed his attention towards me. In light of Mr. Doyle's medical situation and the indications of financial exploitation while he was incapacitated, I am granting him temporary exclusive use of the marital home. Melissa emitted a faint choked sound. Your Honor. Wells began, but the judge raised a hand to interrupt. The court regards the exploitation of a medically vulnerable spouse with utmost seriousness. Counselor, consider yourself fortunate that I'm not suggesting any legal repercussions at this moment. Andrew collected his papers, making an effort to conceal his sense of satisfaction. As we departed, Dana's gaze met mine. For the first time, I perceived a sense of fear in that moment. Not about me, of repercussions. After 3 months in the hospital, I returned to our home, my residence at this moment. The divorce concluded more swiftly than anyone had anticipated. Melissa chose not to engage in any disputes following the injunction hearing. Greg had vanished, leaving her to confront everything by herself. Ultimately, the judge granted me the house, my truck, and a substantial portion of our savings, amounting to 80%. Melissa received her car, along with the final 20% of the payment. The hidden account was divided equally, but only after she covered my legal expenses from her portion. Our paths never crossed in conversation again. All matters are handled through legal representatives. The most recent update I received was that she had relocated to Minneapolis. It seems like a fresh beginning is in order. 6 months later, I completed the sale of the house. An overwhelming abundance of memories. Acquired a more compact residence in proximity to Brian and Lily. I allocated a portion of the funds to assist Lily in her pursuit of a law degree. She is destined to become an exceptional attorney in the future. I no longer engage in long-haul driving. The doctor has expressed concern about the stress on my heart. Instead, I found a position in dispatching, returning home each evening. While it may lack the excitement of the open road, there is a certain value in the comfort of stability. Occasionally, individuals inquire whether I feel anger regarding the events that transpired. I am not. That is no longer the case. One cannot dictate the actions of others. Your response is what truly matters. Melissa believed she was stripping away everything from me that day in the hospital. Instead, she compelled me to advocate for myself in a manner I had never experienced before. Recently, while sorting through some old boxes, I stumbled upon our wedding album. I considered discarding it, yet ultimately chose to keep it. Simply return it to the box. This has become an integral part of my narrative. This is merely a continuation, merely a chapter. The heart attack was a life-threatening experience for me. The treachery almost shattered my spirit. Yet I remain present, perhaps transformed. Absolutely stronger. There are certain lessons that come through experience and challenge. There are individuals you part ways with for valid reasons. At times, the life you create anew can surpass the one you once had.